Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Unstoppable Pursuit podcast, where we are pushing the limits in business, life, and health. And today, we're talking about teamwork. My name's Brian Benson, and this compadre next to me, his left pec is bigger than his right, ladies and gentlemen, Michael Stull. And he's going to do the reading today out of his book, Dominate Your Day. Check it out on michaelstull.com. You will not regret it, I promise you. Go ahead, Mike. Let's kill it, brother.
Keep company with those who are always 2 steps ahead of you. Keep those around you who challenge you to be better. You need individuals around you who make you excel in all areas of life. If they have your best interests in mind, make sure they know you feel the same way about them. When a team is established with people who genuinely want each other to succeed, it is the most powerful force in business. Surround yourself with people who have the same ambition as you. It is very important to be on the same wavelength with the people you spend the majority of your time with. Spend time with those who lift you up rather than pull you down. And the quote at the bottom is by Jim Rohn: either you run the day or the day runs you. Woo! Woo, baby! Teamwork makes the dream work go, baby.
Oh, man. Fire, fire. That's both of them.
That's it.
That was quick.
That's it.
I was like, okay.
We're ready to go, bro.
I was pulling a mic. I was looking off I was doing this, you know, and I was looking at you.
I was like,
yeah, I was taking some notes too. All right, so what is teamwork, Mike? I mean, let's dive right into this. I mean, what really makes, the dream work through teamwork?
Well, I think that anyone could probably come up with a pretty basic definition of teamwork. I mean, we have several listed on our whiteboard, but I think it's a bunch of people coming together to achieve a common purpose of the group or a common goal. So, and it's not a bunch of people that are coming together that all are good at the same thing. Mm-hmm. Obviously, everyone has different strengths, and in order for you to be successful in business, I need to be in a room where there are a bunch of other people that are much smarter than me in many, many different categories. And we've talked about this before in other podcasts that we've done, that you bring to the table a lot of amazing things that I have absolutely no clue about. So when it comes to teamwork, combined action of people with different strengths.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're the smartest person in the room, then you are in the wrong room. That's just what I truly believe. Yep. Like, surround yourself with A players, surround yourself with people who are going to lift you up. Like Mike said, we've talked about some of this stuff in other podcasts, but it definitely is surrounding yourself with the right people that are going to achieve that common goal, and everybody's strengths coming together, which one of them is, supporting each other in those strengths and your weaknesses in an unselfish manner. I think that when you can figure out what that one person needs to deliver, then you need to work on that strength of that person. That person needs to work on that weakness of the other, and it will combine to be pretty effective.
Right, and I think with you mentioning being unselfish, I think that's huge. And the first thing that comes to mind for me is Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. Mm-hmm. They made such a good 2-man team, but Scottie Pippen knew that he had to be unselfish, that he wasn't going to be the one scoring 30, 40, 50 points a night. He knew that in order for them to succeed, he had a supporting role, and he dove into that role 100% and supported Michael because he knew that Michael was the main leader. So again, you're going to have to humble yourself when you're on a team in order for you guys to work and to achieve that common goal. Sometimes it involves taking a step back and allowing others to lead that may be stronger than you in certain categories.
100%. I mean, we got Kevin Love sitting right here as the bobblehead, and he had to do that, didn't he? He was on the Timberwolves, #1 player. He was getting a double-double every game, but he had to do what Scottie Pippen did. He had to realize what's the betterment for the team. They look for the greater goal, and look, they won a championship. So 100%, brother, I appreciate that. And another thing in example, and this is kind of maybe out of the box thinking, but this teamwork and being unselfish comes in a lot of different examples. It comes in sports, but we also were like, geez, it also works in sort of like any kind of animals. Like, it's our human instinct to really help each other in a lot of different ways. We were talking about how lions do it, how maybe one lion will be off, sitting there poaching, and the other one causes a distraction, and then boom, they work together and they make it happen. So I just always find that when you can work, 2 heads are better than one. There's a million different sayings that we could come out with, but
Yeah.
it truly is the one sometimes has to make a little bit of a sacrifice for the greater good of what they need to accomplish.
Right, and you talking about the lion pride made me think of like when ducks or geese are flying in the air and they make the flying V. Like that's a collective effort.
Ducks fly together.
But yeah, ducks fly together. Shout out to D2, The Mighty Ducks, one of my childhood favorite movies. But no, they, one duck had to lead, and one duck had to be that first duck out in front. But those ducks in the back were just as important, and they know their role, and they all have to work together to form that V.
Yeah, and you just saying that, everyone is empowered to lead, because as they create their V and as they're flying, a duck will fly up to the front and the other one will take a back seat. Sometimes LeBron James, sometimes Michael Jordan had to say, I need that role player to step up and be his best at this moment in time, because, I mean, there's always a leader, but if everybody has an opportunity to feel empowered and lead, they need to do that and step up into that role, and they need to do it in a big, big way.
Right, and I think we kind of keep bringing up the athletic portion just because I come from a basketball background, Brian comes from a soccer background, but like LeBron, for example, maybe he's not scoring 30 points tonight. Maybe he's getting a triple-double in assists, rebounds, and steals, and someone else comes and has to score that 30 or 40. But really, I think the common denominator of that teamwork is just being unselfish to support the common goal of the group.
Yeah, exactly. And if you relate it to business, if the CEO's out of town or can't be there or isn't in the office, that doesn't mean the business should stop. That doesn't mean the business should not move forward toward where it needs to. And effective leaders grow effective teams that can put over the goal line, whether that person is there or not.
Right. And you speaking that just made me think a good example of that is Undercover Boss on TV.
Yes, yes. Great show.
Like, it shows you how important, no matter what position you are in the company, just how important your position is to keeping that company going around, on a yearly basis and achieving those business goals. So again, you need to take your position serious no matter what, especially if you're trying to work yourself up and develop more leadership skills along that line.
Yeah, I mean, every position counts for sure, 100%. If the janitor's not doing what he needs to do to make it clean and look good, then it's not going to be good. They won't have patrons in the door. If the fry cook isn't, doing what he needs to do, flipping the burgers faster, it's not going to work. If everybody's playing their role to the best of their ability, then I guarantee you will see success.
Yeah, well said. All right, so our next point that we're going to go to is, now that we've actually talked about teamwork and what that entails, whether it's in business or athletics, how do you actually build your team?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the first point we have on here is to know your strengths and weaknesses. So be very self-aware. Don't sit there and try to fix your weaknesses, because everybody else is already focused on those, and that's just going to take time away. Focus on your strengths and then add those pieces to the puzzle.
And if you follow us on Snapchat, you'll see that we snapped that Brian was all up in my grill and he said, focus on your strengths, not your weaknesses. But yeah, I think being self-aware, I mean, I'm going to use Brian and myself as an example. When we decided that we wanted to do this podcast and pay it forward and provide value to your guys' lives, business, health, life, we both had strengths and weaknesses. Like, Brian's very good with the media, editing videos, doing interviews. I mean, that's his thing. That's his craft. I'm not as good at that. What do I bring to the table? Maybe I just bring my...
I'll answer that question. I will answer that question.
I'll let Brian toot my own horn.
We need to put that sound in there. We need a sound machine. Yeah. That's our next investment for the podcast. No, what Mike provides is a ton of knowledge from his experiences. Mike has been around the block. He's worked for high-end corporations. He's out on his own being an entrepreneur. He knows the ins and outs, what it takes to be successful. He puts in, 100-hour weeks. I mean, he is like a workhorse. He's super motivated, and yeah, I'm gonna get emotional over here. All right, here, crying his shoulder. But that's Mike brings, and then Mike also has invested thousands of dollars in time into the health portion of this. I mean, he is probably one of the most knowledgeable people I've ever met in that health world, because I mean, look at him, first of all. I mean, his shirts don't even fit. But that's what you provide, Mike, and that's why I think when we went into this, we were like, it kind of just matches and it works, and I know that where I lack, you're going to pick up right away. I mean, that's just how we roll, brother.
Right, and I agree. And I think part of this podcast, growing its audience, and you guys continue to enjoy the content that we put out, is us basically knowing and being self-aware of our strengths and weaknesses. You know, I'm going to try to improve on my weaknesses, but there are certain things that I'm going to lean on Brian for to really take this podcast to the next level, and vice versa.
And I think the next point on building your team is like, don't always add like yes people. And by that we mean yes, join the team, let's keep moving forward, let's do this, but not somebody who always agrees with you. I don't think that that's because if you just had people saying, yes, that's a great idea, yeah, I agree with you all the time, with no one talking about looking at it from another angle or playing devil's advocate, you won't grow. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then you'll just think, well, I'm the best. Why do I even need a team? You know?
Right. And it's not like you want, and taking it the other way, it's not like you want someone who's constantly saying no every single time.
Right.
Like, I don't want to beat my head up against a wall. And, you know, you need to have people that obviously want the same goal, but yes, it's very, very important to bring people in that bring different perspective. And like you said, I think devil's advocate is perfect because, you know, there's been plenty of companies that have put out like marketing campaigns for their business, and then the next thing you know, they're in the news for bad publicity because I don't know what happened. There was a lapse along the way. Like, they didn't have enough people going over that marketing campaign to be like, whoa, wait a second, this sounds a little weird, doesn't it? Like, you need to like play devil's advocate so that you make sure that you are hitting your target audience.
Yeah, I mean, it's not confrontation. It's people truly trying to help the vision of where they're going. And, you know, that's why we say here, it's like surround yourself with batteries, not black holes. And by that I mean surround yourself with people who are going to charge you, who are going to put fuel into the engine, but always in a good way. Whether they agree with you or not, they still care about that mission. But the black hole is the negative person who just totally sucks the energy out of the room, who pulls the meeting down, who when you're trying to get fired up is like, well, I don't know if this will work. It's like, no, Steve, it is going to work, you know?
Yeah, and I think you said the phrase misery loves company in the previous 100%. Podcast, and I grew up with my mother saying that all the time. She always said that. She said, Michael, people who are miserable, they love company. So again, of course, if you're around people that are always negative and maybe they don't believe in themselves or they're accepting mediocrity, more than likely that's probably going to rub off on you. So again, I wouldn't be doing this podcast with Brian unless I saw something special and unique in his capabilities and his vision moving forward. I just wouldn't waste my time with it because I am trying to achieve my personal goals. We have our goals that we're trying to achieve as a team. So there is no room for negativity. And there's a difference between negativity and being like a realist, you know, constructive criticism, like, you know, being realistic to a certain extent, looking at your situation. That's not being negative. That's being real, assessing the situation. But there's a huge difference between being super, super negative and just being real about things.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing that I do want to say about building your team is like skills and such can always be learned. Like, just because the person is really good on paper but has a negative attitude, do not bring that into your organization. Like, I know for a fact, like Zappos, like, I mean, they're known for their culture and building their teams. Like, if you go in for the interview and you don't have a good conversation and a good fit with them, they'll pay you to leave.
Yeah, you could probably have like your doctorate and they probably wouldn't care.
No, they don't. I mean? It's 100% if you fit the team, if you're going to sacrifice, if you're willing to do all those things we talked about in the first part of the podcast, like helping each other, being unselfish, working toward the greater good. I mean, if there's a negative bone in your body and it doesn't fit and you're going to be a black hole to the organization, cut that person out immediately because it is not worth the pain and agony that it will cause in the long run. I promise you that.
Right, 100%, spot on. And then let me put it this way. When you're building your team, think of yourself at battle. If you were on the battlefield and you were in a foxhole, who would you have to your left, to your right, and behind you in that same hole? I mean, there should be 3 or 4 people solid that come to mind that you know that they're going to bust their ass, they're going to support you, they're going to be unselfish, and they are going to put the interests of the greater good above their own personal interests.
100%.
I think that foxhole thing is a really good analogy.
Yeah, let's crawl under the desk, and this is the fire.
Would it be creepy if we got under here?
See, this is the foxhole right here. Right
yeah,
here.
we're in the foxhole, baby. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Focus on your strengths, not your weaknesses. All right, let's talk about how we use it, and talk about, and go into this first one, Mike, because this is something that I think that is a really good skill of yours, but talk about that effective communication.
Well, I think that kind of builds upon one of our previous podcasts, which was leadership. I think that in order for any type of movement or anything to move forward collectively as a group, there has to be effective communication. And I'm not saying it just has to be verbal, you know, and verbal's a huge part of it, telling people and delegating and letting them know, here's what I need you to do, here's what I'm going to do, here's what we're going to do, but also leading by action, you know, like I'll use my basketball example, like, yeah, I would talk to my teammates before a game and say some things that I probably can't repeat on audio or visual, but I would also go out there and I would back it up and I would play as hard as I could. I would dive for loose balls, you know, and take charges and do all sorts of stuff like that. And by doing that, it proved to them and communicated to them, like, let's get this shit done.
No, I agree. If you aren't, then that goes into our next nonverbal and verbal, and we did talk about this in the leadership, but it's taking action and doing what you need to do on the court, but it's also being verbal about it and saying what you're gonna, and backing up what you're gonna say, and I think that's really, really important. And you kind of talked about what I want to talk about next is this cross-functional team idea about saying, like, this is what I'm gonna do, this is what you're gonna do, this is how you're gonna play. Like, the cross-functional team idea is understanding what everybody else's role is, and if they're missing, there's no gap. Like, if the team runs down the court, like, let's just say the center on the basketball team, like, is a little bit slower getting down there, LeBron's probably going to step, or some player, the 4 position, is going to step into that role and fill it. And understand that when somebody's missing, they can fill the gaps immediately, because there's effective communication, which everybody knows what each other's role is and what they're doing and how they're doing it, and that way there's never any lapse, nothing falls through the cracks. They know how to effectively piece that puzzle together at all times.
Yeah, I think that knowing your role is a huge thing, because again, not everyone's always going to be the leader. There's going to be a lot of role players, but as we mentioned in the beginning of this podcast, being a role player is just as important. Like, if you're the 6th man off the bench for a championship team, trust me, your position is just as important as one of the starters. But being able to step in, let's say, you know, I was in foul trouble and the number 2 guard comes in, you're number 1 now. You know, so you better be able to fill those shoes. So knowing your role and understanding that you may take on a greater role when the situation changes.
Oh, totally, dude. And the one thing, and as we're talking about effective communication, understanding each other's roles, stepping up into the role, the one thing that I think can really, really kill a team is the bad talking, the shit talking behind each other's backs and things. Like, that should not happen at all in your organization. If that's happening, then that person who is having those conversations behind each other's back either needs to go, or they need to learn how to have conversations, uncomfortable conversations in front of each other. That's just it. I know more successful companies that it is a non-talking behind your back policy there. If there's a problem with the guy down the hall, the girl down the hall, and they're doing something you don't like and you're talking behind their back, it's going to cause negativity, and everybody else is going to walk on eggshells, and it's going to be weird. What you need to do is bring that person in the room and just confront them. It's not a negative thing. This goes back to the yes people and the no people. This is just somebody having a conversation. It doesn't need to cause any kind of fight.
Constructive criticism.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off there, but
no,
yeah,
go.
I 100% agree with what Brian's saying. Like, no one wants their back to be talked about. You don't want to be talking about anyone else. Just man up and go to that person and just lay it out on the line. You know, like that. Again, it goes back to trust too, because when there's a lot, and we've talked about that before in a previous podcast, is when all this stuff is being talked about, then the trust is out the door, and then that's it. Yeah. You know, once you lose that trust, that's done. So, yeah, focusing on positive reinforcement, constructive criticism, just being honest. I mean, you don't have to approach that person in an aggressive way, but just say, hey, do you mind if I talk to you? There's a few things I want to say.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Mike. I think it has to come from a place, and this is just effective communication in general. You never approach somebody and start yelling at them or telling them they're stupid, you know what I mean? That's not going to work or motivate them, I'm telling you. But it has to be constructive, like, hey, look, you know, whoever it is, Karen, you know, I'm just, you know, the way that you're doing this, I just think we need to, like, could we try it this way? Like, almost offer a suggestion and offer help to that person before you know, talk negative behind their back, like, oh God, she just keeps printing all these copies and it's annoying. You know, it's like, okay, let's assess the situation. Hey, Karen, why don't we not waste paper? Here's an idea that maybe could help. Maybe you send this to me first. Then we get 2 eyeballs on it.
Maybe you print double-sided.
Yeah, exactly, dude. But that's what I'm saying. Is just that that it has to be in a constructive way, because you don't want people getting negative and sad on themselves. You know.
And I think that kind of goes along with one of our points that we kind of skipped over. It was having some sort of a reward system and recognition where, listen, people like to be rewarded and they like to be recognized. So, you know, do not be afraid that whatever environment you're in, athletic or business or whatever, that you are encouraging them. You are giving them compliments. Like, hey, Brian, you text somebody. I text Brian, dude, you crushed it on that interview, man. Good job. Like, that goes a long way in developing that trust and that camaraderie of the team and just building those relationships. Like, I was the first one, for example, on my basketball team. Like, if someone threw a good pass or something like that, I was up off the bench and I was hooting and hollering and, like, giving them the recognition that they deserved, because I knew that it would give them that adrenaline to keep going. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Because most of the time, Mike, people know when they've done wrong. What are you going to do? Someone throws a pass out of bounds.
That's so
Are you
true.
supposed to be like, oh, what the heck? You know, are you supposed, like, that person already feels bad. That person in the organization already knows they're bad. So focus on the positives for once. There's so much freaking negativity in this world. Like, focus on the positives for people. Say, hey, look. Like, if someone threw the pass out of bounds, just be like, dude, that last one, though, before you, like, it was so good. Like, you're killing it with the passes. That one got away from you, but screw it. Just move on. Like, I think that you got to focus on the positive.
It's so crazy. I'm about to get heated right now.
Get heated.
No, it's crazy because you bringing that up about the basketball thing, like, I won't mention any names or anything, but in high school, I played for a basketball coach that, I mean, dude, he was so hard on me. Like, I was already, like, yelling at myself if I made a mistake. Like, I didn't need to hear it from you while I'm running down the court and he's kind of jogging along the sideline, like, ripping me a new asshole, you know? Like, of course, dude, I didn't try to turn the ball over. I didn't try to throw it out of bounds. It was an accident. I won't let it happen again. I did not thrive under that at all, you know, because everyone has always told me, Mike, you are your biggest critic. You know that you already made a mistake. You're trying to fix it and move on. I would have responded better to constructive criticism. So then I had a new basketball coach come in that was young. This dude was so encouraging. If I made a turnover and I got down on myself, he's like, what are you doing? He goes, I don't care. He goes, keep going. Like, he would downplay a mistake or something, because he knew that being positive and saying, listen, shit happens, keep going, make it up on the next play. I thrived under that. I had a standout year my senior year and just blossomed because this coach was so positive. He was an effective communicator. I mean, all these things that we've talked about today as far as building people up rather than bringing them down, he brought out the best in me, not the mess in me, which was the opposite of what my previous coach does. So, or what he did. So, yeah, I mean, that was just a huge learning experience for me. That affected my confidence, everything. So, shout out to Coach Keller if you're listening to this podcast or watching. I appreciate all the support and the encouragement.
Awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. And the one point that you said was, like, the people on your team, I mean, if they're on your team, they're there for a reason. They're there because they're all trying to accomplish this goal. They aren't trying to screw things up, I would say, unless they're really sadistic or something.
Yeah,
but, like,
exactly.
I would say, you know, it's not like Mike was purposely trying to lose the basketball game, or I would let in a goal in soccer and be like, oh, okay, like, I meant to do that. Like, that's not, I would not, like, people don't, they're all trying their best. We're all trying our best. The best thing you can do is give them positive reinforcement. Let them just, be like, the negative things that happen have to be like water on a duck, you know, it just rolls off and you have to continue moving forward. Otherwise it will just stymie the team and you won't move. You won't move.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we used to say for our basketball team, we used to say our slogan was 12 names, one team.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, we had 12 different names, last names on the back of our jersey, but it was one team. We were trying to win together as a team. We practiced as a team. We traveled as a team. That's it, you know. So being a team is just being unselfish. I really think that that's the take-home message on this.
Yeah, exactly. And just like one last thing on that is the girls' soccer team, my senior year in high school, had this saying on the back of their shirt, and I just always loved it, but it goes, the fist breaks fingers. So if you have a bunch of individuals out there, like, and you go against a fist, like, who's going to win, you know? Clearly the fist will break any finger. So the more you come together and come stronger, the better off we're going to be. Better off your team's going to be, the better off you're going to be as an individual. And now we're going to move into the challenge, man. Mike, a great book. Check out Dominate Your Day on michaelstull.com. Buy it. Come on. It's great.
So basically our challenge for this particular podcast, I have a little piece in the book, and it says, question for you. Encourage others. Big people make other people big, but little people make you little, tearing you down to their level. The question is, do you make other people big? If so, what can you do today to make someone else a little bit bigger?
100%. So that's our challenge for you today, is what can you do to lift somebody up, to make someone feel a little bit bigger. Give them that compliment, that positive reinforcement, help them get through a negative time, but lift them up so they are on the same level with the team and to continue forward. I love that, man.
Right on. So now we will end with our health tip. This week I want to talk about dynamic warm-ups versus static stretching. Now I know this is going to be new for Brian too, so I've been saving this. I've been meaning to talk to him about this because word got out that he was doing this wrong. Okay, and it's my responsibility as his personal trainer to make sure that he's safe. So really, we've always been told that we need to static stretch before a workout, which means, you know, even in college, like stretching out, like holding a stretch for 30 seconds, right? And then you go in and you go and work out. Well, what the studies actually show is, like, literally you are stretching a muscle that has not a lot of blood flow. It's not elastic because it's not warmed up. You're stretching a cold muscle, and you're holding that, okay, which is the equivalent of your car sitting outside in the cold weather. You go outside, you start that car up, and you are pedal to the metal down the road. That's not good for the engine. You got to warm the engine up. So now what they're saying is do a dynamic warm-up before your sporting event or your workout or whatnot, and that could be jumping jacks, that could be like the treadmill, the elliptical, some sort of calisthenic style stuff. Jump ropes is a good one. Swinging a kettlebell is another good one. It would be much better to do that, then work out, and then static stretch at the end of your workout. Okay. Now, if you see Olympic sprinters, you'll see them doing, like, before their sprints, doing toe touches down the track. That's another form of dynamic warm-up where you're stretching the muscle while you're warming it up. You're not just stretching it and that's it. The key here is a dynamic warm-up. When you get done with your workout, then you can static stretch, throw your leg up, stretch your hamstring out for 30 seconds, switch to the other side. So give it a try. Dynamic warm-ups first, static stretching at the end. You're welcome.
Yep, you got to preheat the oven before you get it going, you know what I mean, baby?
That's funny. Oh, man, don't want no drama with that baby mama.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for everybody who tuned in live. We really are so grateful and really, really appreciate it as always. And, hey, we'll see you on the next episode.
See ya.